I feel like diet culture sets you up to never be good enough.
Did you burn 500 calories on the treadmill today? No? Me either.
I mean, anybody can sit with us. We're just really not about diet culture.
But literally, happiness doesn't come from a low-calorie, high-intensity life. I actually do like carrots.
I do too. They're my favorite.
Welcome to the Fit Fueled Free podcast.
So basically, diets suck. Hey guys, welcome to episode 40. I'm Jenna.
I'm Danielle.
And today we have the privilege of interviewing Emma Mannis. And Danielle, she's going to give a little description and intro of who she is.
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of meeting Emma at the Beauty Has No Limits conference that I got to speak at back in February. Emma is a fashion major from VCU who has created and runs the brand Evolve, and their kind of mission is that beauty has no limits. So they really offer clothing sizes and styles to every body, which is really amazing. So she is here to talk to us today about her journey with recovery and how the fashion industry impacts our relationships with our bodies and what she's doing to change all that.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. Welcome.
Yeah, hi. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Jenna.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
We're super excited to talk to you today.
Yes.
How have things been going your way with all of this?
It's been really crazy. We actually are not doing too bad on online sales, but I've just been like sucked into doing so much computer work, which I'm not really used to. We do more pop-ups because I like to do in-person interactions with people, especially when they're buying from us. So it's just been an adjustment, but we're figuring it out. So yeah, could be worse.
Hear that it's going well for you. That's super
Yes.
exciting.
Yeah. What about you guys? Are you hanging in there?
Yeah, I'm doing telehealth with all my patients. I've been working from home for about 2 weeks now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Very. Therapy is very different right now too. Like, so weird.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll be all over with soon.
I know. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Okay, so we want to dive in with asking you what your relationship with food was like growing up.
Oh gosh. Okay. That is a big question. So I think growing up, like I remember being like 10 years old and really just starting to struggle with like how I felt about my body. And I started like trying different things probably at that age to, lose weight in the places that I wanted to, like whether it was cutting out carbs or just not eating sugars. Like I always found some type of diet to be on, and I created a lot of food rules pretty much like since the beginning. And I think being in such a competitive environment, because I was an athlete my entire life, and being surrounded by, top tier athletes, like you're all trying to outdo each other, and everyone's, talking about what they're eating and like their bodies, and it's just a big focus where I grew up. So I think it was always a little bit skewed from the beginning. But I mean, of course, with recovery and treatment, it has gotten better, but growing up, yeah, I mean, it was rough, and it's still really hard to not even listen to some of those beliefs now, even though I've been in treatment for almost 3 years now. I'll still catch myself thinking like, oh, that's bad for me, I can't have that. And it's kind of just like I have to turn that switch back the other way. So whoops. Well, I'm going off. Okay.
That a lot, how like even when you really have separated yourself from that world of following the rules, you still hear something occasionally.
Yeah.
What the heck? Wait, am I supposed to be doing this? Is this wrong? It's like so strange.
Yeah.
How, even when you rationally know all of that and have done the work, that you can
Definitely
be susceptible to it.
Oh yeah, and especially like all the stuff that you see online, and like right now specifically during all this, it's like everyone's talking about the quarantine 15 or what diet or how much weight they're losing at home, and it's just like I think diet culture is kind of always going to find a way to convince you that this new thing that's out there is like, this is going to work. Oh no, that didn't work, but this is definitely going to. So I think it's just like being able to spot things like that has helped so much, because I think once you're more aware of it, you can like read into a little bit and be like, no, you're yanking my chain, just trying to make money off of me.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, it's crazy.
And to bring it back to when you were a kid, you said all of this kind of started when you were 10 years old.
Yeah. So I remember like just being in the lunchroom, and like some days I would skip lunch, or like I wouldn't eat a whole lot. And I remember like going home, and I think the guidance counselor had called my mom, and at the time, like, she didn't really know a lot about eating disorders, and I obviously, it was like so fresh at that point, and she had asked me about it, and she was like, I remember her saying, is it just because like you feel embarrassed to eat with your braces? And like that gave me an out. So I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And like, I think just little things like that, like I never even realized that it was an issue until someone else told me that it was. Like, I remember, you know, losing all the weight that I did. And of course, you know, there is no thin enough, but I didn't see it that way at all. And I don't know, I just wish I could go back and shake myself and be like, you're fine, just the way you are.
Yeah. So like, how did that progress for you with that being such a young age? Like, how did that evolve into the point where you ended up going? Because did you go to inpatient treatment?
So, I'll kind of tell like the whole process story. So I guess, so I had been like yo-yo dieting all through high school. And again, like I played soccer really competitively. I played on an Olympic development team, my high school team, and my travel team all at the same time. So it was just go, go, go constantly. And there were always ways to like find control in that. If I had a bad practice, like controlling my food, but I never saw it as that until, you know, I was diagnosed. But to kind of go, you know, timeline, I graduated from high school, and I didn't really, like, it never got brought up again after the guidance counselor called my mom that one time. And I was still like skipping meals in high school at lunch, but I just didn't think anything of it because it became like such a habit for me, and it was my normal. And so I would go home and tell my mom, like, yeah, I had this for lunch when I never did. But it was like, you don't even almost like realize that you're lying about it because you like start to believe your own lies. So I graduated high school, went to a military school, which was like totally not the right place for me. And even there too, I remember like being in season and I would only eat salads, or like I was so picky about what I was having, and the only days that I would allow myself to have any type of carbs was like game days because I knew I needed the energy, and I thought I was being smart about it, which is not how it is. And then I left VMI. It was just not a good fit, and I transferred to VCU and I joined a sorority. So I think that, you know, was almost the next like step into eating disorder world, because you're obviously surrounded by a bunch of women. We're all pretty bad about, you know, talking negatively about ourselves. And just being in a space constantly surrounded by that, I think it fed it a lot more. And that's no one's fault. It's just how we've been trained to think about ourselves. So I think it definitely developed a little more through college too. I would, you know, get ready for spring break and I would be at the gym for like 3 hours straight until I burned off every single thing that I ate that entire day. So I think it like all throughout this time, it had its like small ways that it kind of peaked out, but it was never really full blown until I graduated college. And this was like huge transition time. I just started working in menswear, which is not what I wanted to be in at all, but it was a job. You always hear like, take a job that you can get, like it doesn't matter. So I took a job in Richmond where I've lived my entire life, which was, again, probably another mistake. I probably should have branched out a little bit. But so I got that job, and I moved in with my boyfriend, and going from living to girls or going from living with girls to living with a boy is just so different. And I was also the only one out of all of my friends who had kind of started this process, because everyone else was still in school. So I didn't feel like I really had anyone who understood what I was going through. And not that it was even bad what I was going through. It was just like such a big transition that I didn't know how to handle. And then I was sexually assaulted at a bar downtown, like, and I think it was September of 2017. Yeah, because it was right after I graduated. So that happened. I think that was like really the like straw that broke the camel's back. And I think like I just started using food as a way to numb out. And, you know, over the course of 6 months, I ended up losing, I think it was like 65 pounds. And throughout like the whole time too, I remember hearing people say like, you look so great, what are you doing to lose all this? And of course, when you hear that, it's like just adding more fuel to the fire. So yeah, I mean, it was like a very slow process, I think, leading up to it my entire life. But then once it did, like once the dam finally broke, it broke, and there was no stopping it. And I didn't even want to do treatment. My mom we went shopping, and this was like when I was at my lowest weight, and she could see my bones through what I was wearing. And she was like, you are going to die, like, if you don't stop doing this. And I was like, stop doing what? Like, I'm not doing anything. She's like, I know that something is going on, and this is not healthy. You've never like looked like this. Your personality is totally different. And so she was like, you either go to treatment, or like, we're not supporting you in any way or anymore. And I think I was so mad at the time, obviously, because I wanted to keep doing things my way. But looking back now, I'm so grateful, because I wouldn't be here if I would have kept doing things my way. So that was like the whole process of me getting into treatment. But I ended up I just did kind of like my own intensive outpatient, just because like all the doctors and the therapists told me that I should go to inpatient, but I was so just like, I wanted to stay working, which didn't last very long while trying to do recovery at the same time. And I think I just wanted to like maintain a sense of normal. I had just gotten a puppy. I didn't want to like have to leave my life. So we tried to find something that would work best for me and my lifestyle and, you know, just my personality, because I think it's different for everyone. I think inpatient is really awesome for some people. And then, you know, someone like me, I think I did better doing what I chose to do. So that was my course of treatment. But I'm so happy with who I ended up with. My dietitian, my therapist are amazing. So still see them as often as possible. Yeah.
So where do you think you're at this point of your journey?
So I'm fully weight restored. So that's one box checked, which I like totally thought was going to be the hardest part of recovery. And I was so wrong, because I think like in the beginning, it was so hard because I was so malnourished that my brain just wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And then like once I started to get some food in my system, I was like, oh, and I kind of started to comprehend the actual effects that I was doing to my body. Whereas before it's like, I knew about them, but I didn't care because I wasn't in my right mind. But getting back to a place where I was actually processing information correctly and having that understanding that if I continue to go down this road, like I might live, but I would have to do it with like who knows what, like I might not be able to have children, I might have to have a colostomy bag, like your heart might stop, you just never like really know what could happen to you. So I think going through that whole refeeding thing was really beneficial for me because I desperately needed that. But I think now after refeeding, I'm working a lot on trauma because that's a really main source of using behaviors. So kind of starting, from the beginning of my life and trying to work through things slowly and not rush myself, but also give myself a little bit more compassion, which is so hard for me. I remember going into my first therapy session and she said that I needed self-compassion, and I like cringed because I was like, that just grosses me out for me. Like, I don't know why. I just never felt like I deserved it. But now, kind of talking to someone about everything that I've been through and having someone else say, like, you've been through a lot, you should give yourself a break. Like, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. It's like, I think I needed that permission to kind of just like be a little nicer to myself and not be so hard on myself for everything. Because as you guys know, a lot of people with eating disorders are such perfectionists that it's like, even if you're not doing recovery right, that can backfire, because then you start to feel like, oh, I'm not doing this right, so like, what's the point? So I think right now I'm like I've kind of gotten away from the black and white thinking, and I'm doing a little bit better in the gray area, and just trying to like practice that self-compassion, because that's my biggest hurdle right now, honestly.
And it's also so hard with that as well, like being someone who comes from like an athletic background, when like you're so like you feel like your worth literally stems from your performance.
Yeah.
Like I played soccer my whole life too, all the way up through college, and it's so like you become obsessed with like how your performance, and you literally feel like not worthy if you like mess up in a game or you fail. And so there's so many like parallels with athletes, especially, and it's like heartbreaking because I don't know what exactly it was like for you in college, but like we didn't have any dietitians working with us. Like they don't tell you what to do, so you're kind of left to fend for yourself in terms of nutrition, and you think you're doing something good for yourself. And
and especially like I think going from playing soccer my whole entire life, like it was an outlet for one thing. It was like, that was how I knew how to exercise. So when I stopped playing soccer, I was just like, what do I do? Because I didn't know how to like go to the gym and work out on my own, or like, and do it in a healthy way. Everything was just always, again, like black and white. There was no middle ground. So yeah, I completely agree.
Do you have any words of wisdom? I love that so I have a two-part thing here.
Yeah.
I love that you shared that you're starting to do some of that work through some of your trauma and like learning to have self-compassion. And it can be so scary to do that. Not everyone with an eating disorder has a traumatic past, but it's very co-occurring, right? So a lot of eating disorder work tends to be kind of band-aidy, because you have to get that, like you said, like your body needs to be refed so that you don't end up dying.
Yeah.
So obviously that's priority, and your brain can't handle that deep work because it's not fed. So you need to get there. And then sometimes it can feel like, oh, well, I'm stable. I still have eating disorder thoughts occasionally, but I'm not using these behaviors anymore, so I don't need to keep doing the work. I don't need to work through my trauma.
Yeah.
The excuses can become very easy to make for yourself, which is understandable because it's such an insane process to go through in and of itself, own trauma. But like, how did you find the strength to start digging into that, and how did you like encourage people to do that work for themselves? Because like that's the stuff you have to resolve, right? Or
definitely
else it's probably going to end up going through it again.
Exactly. So something in the very beginning that Meg, my therapist, told me was that choosing my behaviors was taking the easy way out. And I hated hearing that because I was like, I don't take the easy way out. Like, I'm a hard worker. Like, that's not me. I don't want to take the easy way out. So I think that was, for me personally, such a big thing because I wanted to almost like prove to myself and everyone else that I could do it, which is going to be different for everyone. So for more of like a general, I guess, word of wisdom, I would say to just like keep the faith, because I feel like a lot of times you, especially when you weight restore first and you're not really doing a lot of the other work, it kind of feels like you're stuck almost. And I remember feeling that way and like pretty much thinking exactly what you just said. Like, I don't need to keep going. Like, I restored the weight. I'm totally fine. But then something would pop up and my first instinct would be to use a behavior. And I think the more that I like paid attention to when it was popping up and I could identify my triggers, that's when I started to have an understanding of, okay, if I don't deal with these things, then they're going to keep happening and then I'm never going to get out of this cycle. And like, I think that staying in the cycle of recovery is so much better than staying in the cycle of an eating disorder. Like, even if you do mess up and use a behavior, at least you're still trying to, put yourself in a healthier place. Whereas like, if you use an eating disorder behavior, it's so much easier to fall back into that cycle and use the behaviors that you shouldn't be using. So I think like kind of giving yourself a broad overview of the things that really impact you personally is a great way to get down to the bottom of it and be able to like identify that within yourself. And it kind of just creates more of an awareness so you know when that's going to happen. Like for me, for example, it's stress. Like, stress is a huge thing for me. If I get overworked, that is my first thing I do. If I don't take breaks during the day, if someone sends me a nasty email and I like take it personally, that is what makes me use my behaviors. So I have a better understanding now of like, okay, when this happens, I need to do the opposite of what I would have done before. I don't know if that answers your question at all. I know that was like kind of all over the place, but I think just being aware of like who you are personally is such a big thing in recovery. And like, even if you don't know right away, just kind of trying to get to the point where you're at least trying to learn who you are. Because your eating disorder definitely takes your identity away. So it's hard at times, but getting down to your core values and just who you are as a person, and I think who you want to be is what's going to pull you back to recovery. And like thinking about, if I wanted to restrict, does that align with the person who I want to be, or does it align with the person who I used to be? Because the person that I want to be is a completely different person than the girl that I used to be. And she's a better person. So like, choose the thing that's gonna, I guess, get you to your end goal. And it's hard when it's like a daily thing all day, but it does happen over time and it does get easier. So
yeah, no, thank you. I wanted to hear your insight on that, just from the little bit that I know about you. Because I have my own story, but I'm the dietitian, right? So there's only so much that I can say
right
that is gonna be validating before it's like, this is the person that's making me do the work.
Yeah.
So, even if you're compliant. So it's nice to hear other people's stories who don't have like a skin in the game.
Yeah, totally.
To share. And that's part of like what me and Jenna want with our podcast, is just have these conversations. And so I definitely have a method to my madness of my other things I want people to be hearing. but like I'm not always the right person to say it because it's like I have the book size.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that
was amazing. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Being able to do that for yourself.
Me too.
That's incredible.
It's taken a lot of work, and it's like still work, which I think like I think I thought, you know, this was going to be something that I did recovery and I moved past it and like I can leave it behind in my life, but that's not really how it works. And I'm glad that it doesn't work like that, because as hard as it has taught me so much about myself. It's taught me so much about other people. It has made me a better person. It has made me a stronger person. And I of course it's been hard, but I don't think I would trade it for anything at the end of the day. So getting to that perspective, if you can get to that point, then I think like you're out of the woods, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that probably is a good segue into like what that has led you to create.
Yeah. I want to hear all about that.
So it was actually back right after I had been diagnosed. I had a friend from high school who had been shooting with me for Instagram because I did a lot of influencing, which I hate that word, but that was me. I was an influencer. And we got back together after high school. We hadn't talked in 4 years at that point. And we started shooting together. And I think after 2 photo shoots, she had texted me and she's like, what do you think about doing a women's wear company together? Because she knew I had a degree in fashion. And I was like, that's a really cool idea. But we were both like very much so aware of the fact that the fashion industry is not a friendly place for people who are not, you know, the ideal beauty standard. So we decided from the beginning we were going to do something just totally different. We wanted to represent all different types of women, different, you know, sizes, ages, races, gender identities, abilities, everything, because really to us, like, we truly believe that beauty has no limits. And that's kind of what started the whole thing, and it's been a roller coaster ever since. But we called it Evolve because we wanted to really evolve with women throughout their lives, and really stay with them through everything that they went through, you know, the small things, the big things, all the in-between things, and even creating different like style levels and price points just so that everyone could feel like they were a part of something, because clothing is so exclusive, but everyone wears clothing, so it doesn't make sense why it's so exclusive. So we pretty much, our goal was to create a whole new standard of beauty. And Colleen ended up leaving the company last January because she started a family of her own. Then they're doing great. So it's just me now, but we've been rocking and rolling ever since. We did our first fashion show back in September. So we had 50 models, again, all different sizes, abilities, shapes, races, ages, everything. And they all got the chance to walk down the runway, and they had signs that they carried out at the end that said "I am," and they got to write whatever word they felt like really described them. Wow. So it kind of looked like a protest when they were walking out with their signs, you know, protesting against the industry and saying like, we're here, we deserve to be seen too. So that has been like our biggest event that we've done so far. And then from the fashion show, we were able to take a little bit of money and get started. I'm working with a lawyer right now, but get started on starting a nonprofit. So the nonprofit is Beauty Has No Limits. And through the nonprofit, the goal is to raise money throughout the year to give treatment scholarships away. So a big thing for me, my 2 people who provided treatment didn't take my insurance. So we had to pay out of pocket, which a lot of people have to do. So my goal is to, you know, either take away the cost completely for someone going through recovery, or at least help it a little bit. So the goal this year is to do 5 $5,000 scholarships. So that's one of the things that we do. And then another thing that we're working on with Stay Strong Virginia, kind of partnering up on, is putting body image and eating disorder support groups on college campuses. So that's another level of it. And then something that I do more personally and, within the Evolve team is we're taking the foundation and going to fashion industry professionals and educating them on body image, eating disorders, providing resources if they think someone is struggling, how to approach someone who they think might be struggling, and, kind of just going into these big corporations and explaining why they should be inclusive and presenting the facts, because a lot of these companies, they want to see the dollar results, which is not the way that I think about it. But when you are trying to get these big names to be more inclusive, you got to do what you got to do. If the end goal is to get the fashion industry more inclusive, like, I'm okay to do whatever it takes to get there, because it's so necessary, and it is killing people the way that things are right now. And I cannot stand it, because it affected me so much too. Even going when I was in the fashion program at VCU, going through that and doing some internships on photo shoots and just seeing like how models were treated, and they would use like actual clamps to hold back skin on girls, like not just the clothing, like literally they would clamp their skin down so it would appear flatter in the front and just thinner. And just the way they would talk to them, like telling them that they needed to lose more weight. And I just never want to create an environment where someone feels like they can't be themselves and that they don't feel good enough in their own skin, because we all want to feel that way. So, this is just the start of what we're building up to and what we're trying to do. So I'm really excited to see where these next few years take us, and I hope that it becomes as big of a movement as I hope it does. So we'll see, but that's kind of like the overall view. And we're in the process right now. We buy from wholesalers, but we're switching over to doing all of our own designs. So we'll be able to carry, we carry 00 through 24 right now, but we'll be able to carry, I think they told us 00 through 36. And then we're also adding on an adaptive clothing line. So when people go to the website, they'll be able to go under adaptive, and they'll be able to shop by their disability, whether they need more crop jackets for a wheelchair, or they need snaps and instead of buttons, or Velcro instead of zippers, whatever we can do to make it a little more accessible to everyone. That's the end goal. So yeah, that's Evolve. My little baby. I love it so much, but it's cool. Yeah.
You can see your passion is just.
Yes. I love it with my whole heart.
I love the name.
Thank you. It's totally given me a purpose too. I think that's like such a big piece of advice I would give anyone, is to like just find your why in recovery, because without this, like, I really don't think that I would still be here. And being able to use this experience to help other people has been the biggest blessing, because I just don't know what I would have done with myself otherwise. And just using, this situation for at least a little bit of good at the end of the day.
A little bit of good. Okay, that's modest. What were you going to say, Jen?
Oh, I was just going to say I love the name, because I also feel like it gives like this like vision that like our bodies are not meant to stay the same. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I say all the time, like as life changes, like, and situations evolve, like our bodies like inevitably evolve. And so many people are stuck in the like mindset that like our bodies have to stay the same, or we have to have the body that we had in high school or college. And it's like, your body wasn't meant to do that. And I just think it's super empowering, because as women especially, we're told and taught that like we need to be the smallest possible versions of ourselves, as opposed to like embracing the growth and like evolvement that like we were created to have. And so I just think that's super powerful. And
thank you.
I love it.
Thank you so much. I think every single pop-up every single event that we have and getting to share, like, even just with one person, you know, why we are what we are, and having, like, seeing someone else step out in a piece of clothing that makes them feel so good is a feeling that I like can't even put words to it, because it's so special. And knowing that you almost handpicked that piece that made that person feel so good is the best feeling in the entire world. So I'm so grateful for that. And just like you said, being able to empower women and make them not feel small and make them feel heard, and just give them space to be comfortable and be themselves, because that's literally all we all want, is to just be ourselves and be accepted for who we really are. So
I'm really curious what those talks are like when you go to companies and are like, hey, by the way, this is necessary.
Some of them are receptive, which is a great thing. And then you have the other ones who usually they're the more high-end luxury ones, because of kind of like how haute couture started in Paris. That's been their body type since day one. They use like 13-year-olds in their runway shows because they're literally the only ones that have that body type that they're looking for. And it's just super interesting, like, where it all comes from, and like how, you know, different standards kind of evolve and change over time. But then certain ones, like luxury fashion, is almost like reserved for the rich and the thin and the beautiful, whereas like if you have money you can buy it. So like, why, you know, it's just, I just think it's so interesting kind of how our perception of luxury has like changed over time, because it used to be with royalty, you had more money so you could eat more food, and you were usually in a bigger body. So it's you know, I think the fashion industry has created this standard, but then we've continued to use it, and the media has continued to use it, and diet culture is just, it's become a way for companies to make money off your insecurities. And like, I think if you're more aware of it and aware of what, you know, people are trying to do, you can just keep a better eye out for it and not be as affected by it. It's still really hard, especially with social media, like it's constant, but just, you know, put yourself in a good space with good people and don't listen to the rest of the noise, because at the end of the day, you're you. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that anyone could be, like, no matter what. So yeah.
I have so many thoughts on that. So like the fact, I just recently learned, I don't know if it was at your conference or if I had heard it somewhere else recently, but the models are so young. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure you said that, but how wild is it that grown people are comparing themselves to children?
Yeah.
And we don't even know it.
Yeah. It's like, that's so much of what the comparison comes from too. Like the Victoria's Secret fashion show, for example, those girls literally started, like, some of them I think probably topped their career out there when they were like 22-ish, but they're all like teenagers. Like, of course you look like that. Like, that's just not realistic. And like, I always try to keep an approach about it as like, you know, the fashion industry, we're not trying to do a total flip where we're against thin people, because like that's still being exclusive. I think it's more just, we want to see the full 100% and not this 3% of like what women look like. Like, give me a real representation. I want to know what that's going to look like on my body, you know? So it's just, yeah, it's crazy. Like, just, you don't realize all the little secrets that the fashion industry does and how they trick you in your mind in Photoshop. And it's just, it's crazy. You can't really trust anything that you see out there.
That brings me so much peace though. Like, yeah, in any of my insecurities about my body changing as I change and grow older, like, to think that I'm comparing myself to someone that way, I'm photoshopping something. I don't need to compare myself to Photoshop because I can't walk around Photoshop. So boom, concern. And then to know that they're that young, it's like, well, I can't.
Yeah.
My age in half. So that's another worry I don't have to have because it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But then you start to get into that group of, oh, well, now you have to use wrinkle cream and now you can't look old. So they accept that your body's going to change, but now, boom, your face can't look any different.
Yeah. You can't have cellulite, like whatever it is. Yeah, it's always something to like keep you unhappy, I think, is the goal. Like realistically, I really think that's the goal for them is, you know, what kind of product that we can provide based on how we're going to make women feel insecure, and men too. I mean, on the other side of that, you know, weight gain stuff, and just everyone struggles in different ways. So I think just being so aware of what the media is actually trying to do is a powerful tool for sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's systematic oppression. It's fueling an industry, and it's so frustrating when people get up in arms about it because then they bring health into it. And it's like, we already know so much about how a lot of that information is incorrect. It's only looking at a very small piece of it, right? So really it's a social justice thing because we think, I just was reading this book by Brene Brown. I keep referencing this because it's literally blowing my mind.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I thought it was just me, but it isn't. And she's talking about how when we like feel shame, we look at things as if it's our fault. So like, I suck because I have cellulite. I suck because I don't fit in a size 0 in every brand, like whatever it is. But when you look at how it's actually like a structural, systematic problem that's causing all of this insecurity, then it gives the power back to you to realize that it's not your fault. And that's what's so frustrating, is because we're literally taught through every single thing we come across in our culture that if we aren't that, it's because we're not good enough. But it's actually opposite. Our culture set this up for us to fail so that they could fuel 10 different industries and leave us constantly unhappy to further oppress us, especially women.
Yep.
So it's just crazy, like realizing psychologically the power that has over people. Like it's a complete, just a game changer. Like I knew that was there because I realized a long time ago that putting ourselves down was not making anybody get better. But then to hear it like in other things, I'm like, oh my God, this parallels. Like that's the problem. And so when you have this company and you're making those changes and you're advocating for things that are, that's literally like that's it. It starts here.
Well, so, and that's what I was just gonna say. Like I feel like a lot of the time eating disorder work is very reactive. So like we're trying to be on the end of it where we're more proactive and like we're getting down to the base and the root of like what the issue really is. And it might take 100 years. It might take, I don't even know how long, but like at least we're starting the process of like change. And like who knows if it'll ever change, but if it makes a difference in one person's life, then that's more than enough. So
awareness can too. So it's just like layers that once you see the facts, it's so empowering. So
and it's hard to look away. It's like a bad car accident. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like it's there.
Me and Jenna constantly send each other things and we're just like, oh my gosh, like diet culture again. And it's just the way it's ingrained in things. Sometimes it blows our minds and we're like, you've got to be kidding me. Like this cannot be real.
No, totally. And there's like some things too that I'll see that I'm like tempted by. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is that. Like, don't give into it. It really is.
Watching a show the other night and I said something and my husband goes, you know, that's diet culture talking right there. And I was like, wow, I have you because you're right. I got sucked in and that's exactly where that comment came from.
That's amazing. You need that accountability though. You're like, oh, you're right. That's so funny. I love that.
come full circle in my household.
Yeah. That's awesome.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about is where you've landed with your relationship with exercise because of the soccer to whenever it's transitioned.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So I actually didn't even, I wasn't allowed to start exercising until like March of last year, I think. So it's still been a very new thing, because it definitely, like, once the eating disorder kind of became full blown, like that was a way that I used to lose weight. So, learning that I couldn't go on a 5-mile run if I didn't eat anything that day. And I love to exercise. I mean, playing soccer, obviously, like I love just being outside too. So it was hard for, the first part of recovery, not being able to exercise. But I also think it kind of wiped the slate clean for me. I could start fresh and try different things, especially because I had played soccer since I was 5 years old and like no other sport. Like that was it. And I think, starting with that clean slate and giving myself the opportunity to try new things I would have never done before has been really cool. So I take boxing classes now, which makes me feel like a total, what? I love it. I only go 1 day a week because it literally makes me so sore.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. So it's kickboxing too. So it's like a full body thing. So I go do that once a week. 1 day I'll run. So it's never like running every day anymore. Another day I'll just go on a walk with my dog. I do yoga now. I was never a yoga person before. And then another day I'll do weights. So I think like stability in my schedule and like, I think before I was like always trying to plan what I was going to do because I'm, the way I am, and just giving myself some freedom around exercise has been so cool because I don't get so upset anymore if I have to, work late and I'm not able to do my workout, or like before I would cancel plans so I could do my workout. So just giving myself more flexibility has been awesome. It's so freeing. Like, I don't know why I ever did that before because I was miserable. Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely in a much healthier place now. I still struggle some days, of course. Right. It's hard. Like, it's hard for everyone not to struggle in certain moments, especially if, you're having a bad body image day or whatever it is that you're going through that day. Like, you're going to have those moments. But speaking overall, like, it's great. I love exercising and doing it in a really empowering way. It's been awesome.
Yeah, you found some joyful movement.
Yeah. Yes, and I love Nia from the conference. I'm taking a class once this is all over because that was like the coolest thing ever.
I probably could read a definition of it. It's hard to explain.
I know.
So cool. So we, at the end of Emma's conference that she hosted, we had a Nia group exercise class, and basically it was just like, it was guided but also recommended to just move however felt comfortable with your body.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was literally just like moving your body to music and sounds, and it was like, I don't know, it was just a very joyful experience.
Yeah. And so in a room with so many different women we allowed each other to have that space because we looked like a bunch of goofballs.
Yeah.
Like allowed that to be like, that didn't hold us back, which was really cool to watch that.
And I really love that, like, that was something that where all body types felt like they could do it. And my kickboxing class is the same way. Like, it's not one type of person in there. And that's why I love it so much, is because I don't feel like I have to be a type of way to exercise. Because it's not even, it is exercise, but it's meant to be the joy of movement at the end of the day. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You need to look into that. And Jenna,
yes. You guys will have to come up for a class.
Yeah, that would be fun after the world opens again, because Richmond,
right?
Easy.
Yeah, it's not that far at all.
Yeah, we can get lunch and do something if you guys come visit.
We'll make a date.
Yes, I would love that.
For sure. Jen, did you have any other questions for Emma?
No, I mean, the last question you just asked about exercise, I was going to ask her, like, how that has changed. Yeah, I don't know. I guess my only thing, did any friends, like, throughout this whole process, or even, like, teammates, did any of them go through it as well? Or do you think, like, you were alone in it? Just because I know, like, so many of us, like, when we're going through it, like, we don't talk to anyone. We don't bring people in. Or, like, so many, even, like, within teams, like, multiple people are struggling with, like, similar things that you don't know. And so, like, for me,
that's a great question.
In college, like, no one talked about it. And I mean, I don't know if any of my, like, I still to this day, like, there's never really been any conversations, but I'm just curious, like, what your experience with teammates was, just because, like, for any athletes who are listening to this, like, speak up and, like, bring people into what you're walking through. There's so much more power in that.
Definitely. I mean, as far as other athletes who were going through the same thing that I was going through, even now, like, I don't know of any, at least, like, my teammates, but like you said, someone could have very well have been struggling and I just had no idea. But it's been so weird now, like, ever since I started telling my story, so many people who I, like, have acquaintances with, or I could have known forever, like me personally, will message me and been like, girl, me too, like, and you just have no idea. And a lot of people are so afraid to talk about it because it is very traumatic. For one thing, it's a super personal experience, and, like, you should never feel like you have to tell that part of your life if you're not comfortable to. But I think for me, like, using my social media and, like, doing blogs and just giving tips to other people and really being as open as I possibly could. There's still some things that I keep to myself because I haven't even dealt with them yet. But, like, I think giving people an insight to what it's like it helps people who don't understand it have a better understanding, but it also shows other people you're not alone in feeling like this, like, you're not crazy. And it's telling my story so much too has helped me to not hide behind my eating disorder. And, like, the more that I talk about it and the more people know that I have this thing, the less I can use my behaviors because they'll be able to spot it quicker. Mm-hmm. So it's, like, a little bit of an accountability check for me that I, like, put into place myself. And not everyone is comfortable with that. But even if you have, like, your select few people who do know about it in your circle, like, I do recommend at least telling someone, because it's a really hard thing to try to go through yourself and, like, keep private. Because I went through the whole first year of recovery and, like, actually trying to restore weight before I really told anyone about it, publicly at least. And that whole first year was so hard. Like, I found so much more community now rather than then. And, like, the whole foundation and, like, Evolve, like, all of this has come from me being open and talking about it. So, so far it's produced positive results. So we're still hoping it keeps going that way. But yeah, I think, like, if you're not comfortable sharing with a bunch of people, at least find your few that you can trust. Because it is hard to walk through alone. But there's more people struggling out there than you think.
Obviously we don't have a statistic on it, but just from the people I have met, I rarely ever talk to anyone who hasn't had, like, a really messed up relationship with food.
Yeah, whether it's disordered eating or in full-blown eating disorder, I think everyone, for the most part, like, has some sort of skewed vision when it comes to, like, food and exercise, honestly.
Yeah.
So crazy world we're living in, man.
But it has been so amazing to sit down and get to talk with you a little bit more in depth, and the things that you have to offer are so valuable for our listeners, and it's nice to hear that some things for myself, and just I'm so proud of you. Like, it's
Thank you.
Good vibes.
Thank you so much for having me too. This has been great. Anytime you guys need anything, please let me know. And I'm always here as a resource for other people too if they have questions or anything that I can help with. I'm an open book for the most part, so I'm here too.
Yeah. So where can people find you on social media?
Yes. So my personal page is Emma, so EMMA.Manis, MANIS. And then Evolve's page is just Shop Evolve. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and you can find us everywhere. Please shop with us.
Yes.
Come get yourself some cute t-shirts. What else do we have? Some dresses. Yeah. Got lots of new stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Your story is so powerful.
Thank you. Continue to share yours too. I'm always here.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for listening. It was so fun talking with Emma today. So as always, if you could give us a rating and review on iTunes, that would be much appreciated so that more people can be hearing stories like this. And if you want to keep up with what we've got going on, we're posting regularly on our account, even during this social distancing time. So Fit Fueled Free is our shared page. My personal account is DMarliaL, and Jenna's is JenEbFit. And if you want to email us with any questions, comments, concerns, content you want to hear, fitfueledfree@gmail.com is a great place to find us. And a reminder, I have an 8-week Healing Relationship with Food guide. We're on week 3, and that is available to join at any time. Just DM me or send us an email and we'll get you connected. And then Jenna has her.
Yes, every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm doing a live workout on my Instagram feed. So if you want to come work out 10 a.m. on Saturdays, I will be there. And then also just free workouts throughout the week are being posted on my page, as well as a $10 at-home workout guide on my website that is available for people who don't have any equipment, all body weight stuff. And obviously, if you have equipment, you can add that by all means, but just content that's accessible to everyone during this time.
All right. So yeah, thanks guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.